when I reach a certain threshold of ire, perhaps I could use that word. It gets challenging for me to not get crass, and yeah, so using the word fuck to describe brutality and ideas, attitudes, ideology. I mean, do we shouldn't have to talk about this shit. I mean, but it gets challenging, and I don't think that there's really anything that can be compared to pregnancy. That it could be done to a man. So I just want to start. What I didn't want to do is just getting crass. And just fooling around. But I don't know that it does a whole lot of good. I just think you know there's nothing that compares for a man. I mean, if you think about someone with sudden onset of maybe extreme hypertension and there being no way. I mean, I don't know. I mean, really, again, there's no comparison that I can think of. I mean, can anyone think of a comparison? If someone's saying, you're pregnant and that's my business, and again, it's a reminder of the history in this country that continues. You're pregnant, and even though I don't know you, that's my baby. And yeah, that baby, and yeah, that's my baby. What is it? A week or two after someone's gotten pregnant, you never know what's going to happen with a pregnancy, really. And uh, you don't know what's going to happen with a pregnancy. uh, Miscarriage, I mean, some laws have been so bad, and I think I've talked about this before, that it potentially could be frightening to a woman having a miscarriage to go to a hospital when things are that ass backward. And in some places, I'm guessing that it is that bad. I know when I, volunteered rape crisis is an example. There was a cop, that came in uh, and said he didn't believe she'd really been raped, and I basically just said, well, I mean, it's probably pretty clear the way that I speak, and things just sort of come out of my mouth. But I basically told him, you know, uh, I mean, you know, I'm, I tend to be a spur of the moment speaker. So, do I remember exactly what I said? I mean, the expressions on my face and things like that. I mean, I guess I think about a jackass saying that they're gonna, you know, try to make no abortion legal. And at 6 weeks, that is real early in a pregnancy. And at 6 weeks, sometimes, and it's not even effective. It's so early. And the way that it's measured actually is 2 weeks ahead of where it is. So that might be 4 weeks of pregnancy. And again, you never know what's going to happen with a pregnancy. I cannot think about, was it Ohio where someone said that ectopic pregnancies were going to have to be transplanted into a woman's uterus? And it's like, but I mean, we could teach some classes, some real basic science and medical stuff, and it can be hard not to wish that medical doctors who know how wrong it is wouldn't say more. But even wearing scrubs sometimes can put a person at risk. you know uh, no matter what kind of medicine they practice. And I think we saw that a few years ago. I mean, I know I'm sitting here and not saying much, having a hard time finding words, but what I was going to say is that I guess someone that says I'm going to do that, is a yes man. And there's what is the agenda? I mean, is there an agenda or is it just oppression? I do want to say I think there's a certain amount of ignorance. I think there has to be, because when people are talking about reproductive health, I mean, there has to be ignorance there. There has to be a certain level of ignorance. But I also think about yes men. What's a yes man? And how well does that work out for anyone? And yeah, why do some people run for office? I mean, it makes them feel good. I mean, I don't know, but this part of the country, I mean, plenty of people, I think, will say it's all over the country, and yeah, but this part of the country, where, I mean, there's a history of people being bought and sold, and it's not that far in the past, and women who were forced to stay pregnant. I am sure there are women and girls who died because they were forced to stay pregnant. And yeah, there's always been abortion. And you can find, I mean, I want to be careful what I say, because sometimes a person is looking for a way to terminate a pregnancy and they find something online and they're like, that sounds like a good idea. Well, it can be, females have to have people who work in women's health care, and girls have to be included in that because sometimes girls are raped. Sometimes a child, where you look at a child and you think that's a child, and of course it doesn't even go through your mind that child could get pregnant. Yeah, that child actually could, and that is horrifying. If you've ever seen a child pregnant, and thinking about, okay, you have a child, hips are not wide. I mean, just even thinking anatomically about birth, I mean, it's killing a child to do that. That child's already been killed by being raped. There's already a certain kind of death that has happened. But it is, it is sentencing a child to death. All right, so, and we could talk about, I mean, yeah, there political issue. I mean, God damn, man. Again, history. There were women who were sold as slaves after they no longer could, have could give birth, or there are women who were sold as slaves after they no longer served that function of being a human used to produce babies that were then sold. All right, so, and yeah, and I could mention a book that I have where there's a letter written by a woman who was sold, and she wrote to the family that sold her and asked, please take me back, I want to be with my children. So we're talking about a history of families being broken up, of where I try to put my attention when I think about history is, wow, it's really complex. I mean, there is so much interrelatedness, and there's so much interrelatedness that sometimes you don't know, that you're more closely related to someone. I mean, there's a whole lot of kinship. Okay, so we have that, and a history of people being bought and sold, and I mean, and destroying so much. I mean, it's that brutality continuing. And I just wonder how many people have to call it out. How many ways does it have to be called out before we put an end to the nonsense? I mean, really, it's okay. So, again, there always are going to be women like me, and what can I say about that? I mean, what are we? Survivors. Survivors of plenty of things. And also humans. And also, having a certain amount of common sense. And, I mean, again, it just, when I think about that in the context of what is going on, it really, am I going to say it's terrifying? No, because there's already so much of that shit that's gone on. But it's another part of the oppression. And, you know, uh, again, like I said before in the video I made a while ago, that is humans that want control over other humans. And what is it, when a person wants to control another person, what is it about that person that they don't like? Because there has to be something to that person about what do they not like about themselves? There's a question. I think there has to be something like that. And maybe we need to teach lessons on social boundaries, on what you can and can't do. And that is a problem too. Thinking about the woman who worked at SpaceX who was groped and nothing has been done. That it's just it's should I say it's disappointing? I'm tired of the fight. We shouldn't have to keep fighting it. But we keep, I don't know, these, how do you help a person retrain what they need to retrain, to think differently, to understand, oh yeah, with regard to abortion, it's not completely uncommon for a woman to say, I didn't believe in abortion, and I don't understand that, but I didn't believe in it, and I never thought I would need one, but a person has to. There's no way a person can live if they stay pregnant. And somebody might say, oh, just have the baby and then do an adoption. All right, well, what is that? Can I use the word do-gooder in sort of a derogatory way? Do-gooder. A do-gooder that's, yeah, I'll fix it for you. Let me take that and I'll do this. And yeah, well, what world are you living in if you think like that? And that it's not uncommon for that to be women. So yeah, um, yeah. So just a few more words. I guess some of us are fighters, so we have our work cut out for us when these things happen. But sometimes we're threatened, and we were threatened at the clinic. And I'm sure over the decades that the clinic was open, that's not the first time that happened. But when I had that nightmare in the morning of coming into work, I was putting my ex in danger with my job, and there was someone with a T-shirt that said "Army of God." It's like, well, I can't keep my job. I have to put in my notice because I had a nightmare and putting him in danger with my job. And what could that be? People taking pictures of license plates, looking up information on the internet, coming to your house. Notes outside the door after I moved. We know who you are and where you live. Well, I think one thing I have to remind myself is that even though law enforcement agencies can be corrupt, they're usually not completely corrupt all the time. Not everyone in a law enforcement agency. And sometimes they're tracking those assholes that are doing those things. It gets real old. But yeah, so just a few more words, if somebody that's saying, yeah, no abortion, if that person is trying to wear people out, again, some of us are fighters. And does it have an impact? It just gets old. It gets real old. But they're always going to be like women like me. So, they can hang us, they can burn us, they can shoot us, they can do those things. And I pray that that shit ends. But yeah, they can kill us, but I could say we multiply. There are always some of us. So yeah, just a few words and I think it's not that hard to get sad and to get depressed about it. But it's important, to to remember that that's coming from weak people, weak men and weak women that, you know, have some problems, and yeah, you know, and might need a little bit of help in some way, you know, understanding, you know, maybe their role needs to change just a little bit socially, politically, things like that. So yeah, just a few words, and thank you for listening.